I'm having a baby with my CEO husband who makes $500,000 a year. See you at our wedding in Spain in 6 months.
Laura, the mom friend who took Michael, declared to me triumphantly. In my mind, I muttered, that $500,000 income is actually mine, but I'll keep quiet about that. 6 months later, Laura was growing anxious over the fact that Michael and I hadn't divorced. She harassed me daily, but I needed time to prepare. Soon enough, she would face deep regret. I'm Jessica, 36 years old. I live with my husband, Michael, and our preschool-aged daughter, Ashley. Taking Ashley to and from preschool is part of my daily routine. Soon, Ashley will be starting elementary school. As her graduation approaches, I feel a mix of happiness at her growth and a touch of sadness. At preschool, I've made lots of great memories with my mom friends. We don't just see each other every day. We've become close enough to enjoy lunch dates and even trips together with our kids. This connection with my mom friends has become an important part of my community. But Michael doesn't seem to understand.
Another lunch date? Must be nice to have so much free time.
That's what he always says with a sigh. He's not being sarcastic. He genuinely thinks so. As a busy CEO, my life probably looks pretty relaxed to him. Michael works late into the night, and I'm grateful for his hard work. Still, I secretly wish he'd show a little more interest in helping out with housework and parenting. As usual, after dropping off Ashley at preschool by car, I gather with my mom friends. We were planning our next lunch gathering. There are usually about 10 of us in the group. Among them, Rachel has been my friend since elementary school, and she's someone I can truly call a best friend. As the organizer this time, I quickly brought up the topic to the group. Where should we have it next? When I asked for suggestions, Rachel responded with a laugh.
How about your house, Jessica? It's big and easy for everyone to get to.
All right then. Everyone, please bring some dishes and desserts to share. As we were enjoying our conversation, a woman we didn't recognize approached us.
Hi, can I talk to you for a moment?
All of us looked up. The voice belonged to a young woman with a refined air. While the rest of us were dressed casually, she stood out in a stylish dress and high heels, which felt out of place at a preschool.
I just moved here a month ago, and I don't know many people yet. Would it be possible for me to join your lunch group?
Her sudden request left us a bit puzzled. Her name was Laura, and her daughter, Sophie, was in a class 1 grade lower than our kids. Typically, moms tend to bond with others in their child's class. And our lunch gatherings weren't something we openly discussed at the preschool, so it was strange that Laura even knew about it. Well, maybe we can include you sometime. When I responded politely out of courtesy, Laura smiled and walked away, but I couldn't shake the uneasy feeling it left behind. That afternoon, Rachel called me.
About Laura this morning. I've heard something concerning.
She hadn't mentioned it earlier because other moms were around.
Laura's been asking a lot of questions about you.
As she explained, I learned that Laura had been asking other moms about me.
Does Jessica drive a luxury car? Is her family wealthy? What does her husband do for a living?
I felt both surprised and uncomfortable. Thinking a fancy car automatically means someone's rich is such a shallow assumption. That car is actually my mom's. The car was something my mom, who dotes on Ashley, recommended for its sturdiness to ensure safety in case of an accident, not as a display of luxury. Having people pry into it like that makes me feel uncomfortable. Why is she so interested, though?
I think you should be a bit cautious. It might be better not to invite her to the lunch gathering.
You're right. Next time she asks, I'll just say it's a numbers issue and turn her down. After discussing it, we decided to exclude Laura this time, but her reasons for acting that way and her true intentions remained unclear. On the day of the lunch gathering, my house was lively with many moms and their kids. The table was packed with all kinds of potluck dishes, and laughter filled the air. Suddenly, the doorbell rang. When I opened the door, there stood Laura and Sophie.
Hi there. Do you mind if we join you?
If ever there was a definition of an uninvited guest, this was it. It was unsettling that she showed up without being told the date or location. Laura didn't seem the least bit awkward and greeted me with a beaming smile. We've got quite a crowd today. I tried to decline, but Laura grabbed Sophie's hand and stepped right inside.
With a house this big, a couple more people shouldn't be a problem, right?
Her sudden appearance left the moms in the living room momentarily stunned. The kids, too, seemed uneasy about the unexpected pair. Rachel and I were both taken aback, but it felt awkward to force them out in front of the other moms. This group usually welcomed anyone who wanted to join. Still, inside, I was growing increasingly uncomfortable. The rule for these gatherings was to bring at least one dish to share, but Laura showed up empty-handed. While it was understandable, since she wasn't informed, it still felt off.
Laura, did you bring anything?
When Rachel asked her, Laura responded with a light laugh.
Oh no. I just wanted to see this house.
With that, she began wandering around, inspecting the rooms without hesitation. Her rude behavior left the other moms equally baffled.
This must be your husband, Michael.
She said, picking up a framed family photo and smiling meaningfully. Meanwhile, Sophie started grabbing food from the table with her hands. It was a cake Ashley had helped me bake, something we made together, and that she had happily saved to eat last.
That's the cake I made with Mom.
Ashley started crying. Sophie didn't apologize and was entirely focused on eating. She looked as if she hadn't been given anything to eat in a long time.
It's a small matter between children.
Laura, without offering any apology, seemed to sense the uncomfortable atmosphere, took Sophie's hand, and left as if nothing had happened. After that, the remaining moms and kids fell silent for a while, but eventually someone broke the ice.
That was just awful.
Maybe it's better to keep our distance from them from now on.
Rachel and I both agreed. That day's lunch gathering turned out to be a disaster, and everyone left with a bitter aftertaste. What exactly is Laura trying to accomplish? I told Michael about what happened that day. However, before I could even finish, he shrugged it off.
Anything about Ashley, I'll leave to you, Jessica. Sorry, but I'm exhausted from work.
He used to be much more involved in parenting, and it was his routine to check on Ashley's sleeping face as soon as he got home. Lately, though, he goes straight to the bedroom and falls asleep. Where did the Michael go? The one who cried when Ashley was born and promised to raise her with so much care. I know he's working hard for the family, but I wish he'd show a bit more interest in Ashley. It looks like we need to have a proper conversation. One day, I came down with the flu and asked Michael to take care of Ashley's drop-off and pickup. I expected him to refuse, citing work, but to my surprise, he agreed without hesitation.
I better do something fatherly once in a while, or Ashley might start disliking me.
Ashley was thrilled to go to preschool with her dad for the first time in a while. On the way home, Michael dropped Ashley off at the house and returned to work. Ashley had been in high spirits in the morning, but something seemed off afterward. She opened the door to my room, looking like she wanted to say something.
Mommy, well, never mind.
What's wrong? Did something happen at preschool?
I'll tell you when your fever is gone.
That evening, my mom, who lives nearby, came over to make dinner, but she said Ashley seemed her usual self. When Michael got home later, he gave a similar account.
Ashley was acting perfectly normal this morning and on the way back.
But the next day, and the day after that, Ashley's behavior remained strange.
Mommy, is your fever gone yet?
She would open my door and ask in a small, worried voice. I told her she could talk to me, but she still wouldn't say anything. Ashley is always cheerful and carefree, so this was a first for her. I couldn't help but blame myself for falling ill with the flu. Since Rachel's daughter is best friends with Ashley, I thought I might get some clues and decided to give her a call. I asked her casually, but she said that Ashley seemed to be having a normal and fun time at preschool.
Don't be so reserved. Starting tomorrow, I'll handle drop-offs and pick-ups.
Rachel even offered to feed Ashley dinner before bringing her back.
I'll also keep an eye on her. You know how dads can be clueless sometimes. Maybe Michael missed something.
That might be true. I decided to rely on Rachel. As a result, starting the next day, Ashley began coming home in a cheerful mood. Within a week, I recovered enough to resume taking Ashley to preschool in the mornings. I planned to have a slow conversation with her on the way back. But then something unexpected happened. When I went to pick Ashley up, Sophie got into my car without hesitation.
Where's Dad?
She asked innocently. Right after that, Laura came running up, trying to get Sophie out of the car.
I'm so sorry about this. She just...
No. I want to ride in Dad's car again today.
Sophie raised her voice, refusing to get out. At that moment, Ashley came running up from the preschool building.
Hey, where's Dad today? I don't know.
Ashley replied grumpily to Sophie, skipping any greetings as she got into the car. My mind was in chaos, and I didn't know what to say to Ashley. Then she quietly muttered,
I don't like Sophie. She calls him Dad, but he's my dad.
It was the first time Ashley had ever said something bad about a friend. But more than that, I was overwhelmed with anxiety about the fact that Sophie was calling Michael Dad. According to Ashley, during the 3 days Michael had been picking her up, Laura and Sophie had ridden in the car as well. And during those times, Sophie had called him Dad.
Dad said it's because she doesn't have a dad and it's sad for her. So, we should forgive her.
Ashley explained that this was what Michael had told her in the car on the way home. But then, Ashley's voice suddenly became tearful and desperate.
But you can't tell Dad I said this. He told me if I did, you'd disappear, Mom.
I pulled over the car and held Ashley as she started crying. Mommy will never disappear. No matter what, I'll always be with you. I spoke calmly and gently, but deep inside, anger boiled within me, making my chest tighten and my breathing shallow. More than anything about Michael and Laura's relationship, I couldn't forgive him for acting so recklessly in front of Ashley. That evening, I called Rachel. I was afraid that if I didn't, I might confront Michael out of anger.
Don't you think Laura has been targeting Michael from the start? That would explain all her strange behavior.
She even gave me a sly smile today.
Instead of confronting him, you should investigate first. I'll help you. You can't make a mistake in how you handle this.
Rachel's advice was reassuring. Not only was she my best friend, but as a single mom who had gone through her own tough divorce, she had plenty of experience. After finishing my call with Rachel, I took Ashley and went back to my parents' house. I had no intention of letting Michael see Ashley anymore. I sent Michael a message saying that my mom had hurt her back and I needed to take care of her for a while. He didn't question it at all. One day, as graduation approached, Laura tried to provoke me.
Jessica, you really don't look like a CEO's wife.
That's personal information. At the preschool, we don't talk about our husbands' jobs or pry into others' lives. You should be careful about that.
Oh, scary. With that attitude, you might end up divorced.
Michael would never divorce me. Laura, who was always smiling, had her expression twist into an ugly grimace at that moment. It was clear she was after Michael, but he wasn't giving her the answer she wanted. No matter what, Michael would never divorce me. I walked away with a smile. Eventually, graduation day arrived, and as I felt relieved that I would no longer have to deal with Laura, she hit me with a shocking statement.
I'm having a baby with my CEO husband who makes $500,000 a year. See you at our wedding in Spain in 6 months.
She said it with a beaming smile. In my mind, I muttered, that $500,000 income is actually mine, but I'll keep quiet about that. For the next 6 months, I enjoyed peaceful days at my parents' house with my mom and Ashley. Watching Ashley's happy smile as she enjoyed her new elementary school life was a source of comfort. I had told Michael that my mom's health was still poor, but he never told me to come home. What's amusing is that Michael isn't even going home and is staying at a hotel near his office. He excuses it by saying work is hectic, but our house is only a 5-minute drive from his office. He was probably trying to avoid Laura, who was likely pressuring him to marry her. Laura had been bragging to the preschool moms that she was going to remarry and become a CEO's wife, and that rumor eventually reached me. However, it seemed she hadn't mentioned that the CEO she was referring to was Michael. I had been gradually moving my belongings from my house to my parents' home, but every day I found divorce papers stuffed into the mailbox at my house. I knew the sender was Laura.
Get divorced now.
There were even intercom recordings of her making this demand with a terrifying expression. Laura, who had previously acted so refined, clearly didn't care about appearances anymore. Since the office was heavily guarded, she couldn't get to Michael directly. It also seemed she didn't know I had moved back to my parents' house. I wasn't worried about her causing any harm to the house. She probably believed it would eventually become hers. Still, I made sure to drop off and pick up Ashley close to her elementary school just in case. One day, I decided to go back to my house in the morning and wait for Laura to show up. Sure enough, she arrived, visibly agitated, her hair disheveled as she started yelling.
Just get divorced.
Not until I get an apology and compensation from you. Show me you're serious. Laura looked momentarily shocked, but quickly left to withdraw money, returning with about $30,000 in cash at the door. Are you sure? $20,000 would have been enough.
Consider the extra $10,000 my small gift. Use it for your future.
After letting her inside, Laura surveyed the empty house with satisfaction and said,
If I can secure the position of CEO's wife for just $30,000, that's a bargain.
Feeling triumphant, Laura started talking without being prompted. She bragged about how she had been searching for a wealthy man to marry, noticed my car, and assumed I must be rich. She explained how she had staked out my house every morning, followed Michael, and discovered his office. So did you approach him, saying you needed advice or something?
That was the plan, but when I followed him, he came out with a female employee, and it turned out they were having an overnight date. The next day, it was a different woman, both young and beautiful. Oh, I'm sorry. Did that shock you?
Not at all. At this point, nothing you say surprises me. But honestly, if you ever need a job, you'd make a great private investigator.
Never. Someone like me working? That's unthinkable. Being a CEO's wife is the best. Unlimited spending money, you know?
Is Laura always this talkative? I was genuinely surprised. She usually spoke only briefly, her long lashes lowered modestly, but today she was rattling off her so-called success stories like a machine gun.
Do you want to know how I managed to win over Michael?
Sure, I'll listen for future reference.
Well, I doubt you'd be able to pull it off. You don't seem very perceptive or proactive, and you're definitely not the type to put on an act.
I was struggling, but not because I was upset. I was trying my hardest not to burst out laughing.
Are you jealous?
She kept asking that every time I bit my lip to hold back laughter, which only made it harder.
But I'll tell you anyway. I approached him claiming to be your best friend. I showed him pictures of his affairs with female employees and told him I wouldn't tell you as long as he stopped.
And he believed you?
He turned pale and started shaking. You must be terrifying. He begged me, please don't tell Jessica. I'll pay you anything.
I regretted not being able to witness that scene, but I'd soon see something even more pathetic.
After that, it was easy. I convinced him to cut ties with those women and acted like a discreet, kind woman. I even told him, as a CEO, you need a break sometimes. He must have been a serious person at heart. Once he slipped up, it was easy to make him fall.
Michael had always been responsible and serious. Raised by parents with high expectations, he had focused on academics and avoided playfulness. He was the typical case of someone who, once they learned to let loose as an adult, couldn't stop. Michael should be coming back any moment now.
Anyway, back to the main point. You're definitely going to divorce him, right? I even have proof.
Laura held up her phone, showing a recording app on the screen. I showed her my completed divorce papers. You're the one who kept putting divorce papers in my mailbox, right? Thanks for saving me the trip to City Hall. I wish you all the best. At that moment, Michael returned out of breath. He looked startled at the sight of the empty house, but the next moment, his face turned pale when he saw Laura, As Michael stood there, bewildered, Laura ran up to him, brimming with excitement.
Michael, be happy. Jessica's divorcing you. Now we can get married.
But Michael shook off her hand and coldly pushed her away.
Have you mistaken me for someone else? This is harassment.
Michael darted his eyes nervously, but then turned his anger toward me.
Jessica, you said you had something important to tell me, so I left an emergency board meeting for this.
It is important. She's claiming to be pregnant with your child. And she mentioned a wedding in Spain soon, didn't she?
I don't know anything about that.
He denied it strongly, but his trembling hadn't stopped. When I pulled out the investigation report and photographic evidence I'd obtained from a private investigator, Michael finally gave in and apologized to me.
It was just a fling. Please forgive me.
Of course, Laura couldn't stay silent.
What are you talking about? I'm pregnant with your child.
I'll take responsibility. I'll pay you money. But I'm not divorcing Jessica, and I'm not marrying you.
Michael declared firmly. Laura, shaking with anger, glared at Michael but couldn't say a word in return. Seeing an opportunity, Michael pleaded with me.
This might have shocked you, but please stay calm.
I've known for quite some time, and she told me about the pregnancy on graduation day. Michael turned and shouted at Laura.
I told you not to say anything to Jessica.
You're not acting like your usual composed self, Michael. Are you that scared of Jessica? Does she have something on you?
Shut up. Stay out of this.
I had never seen Michael like this before. While I had expected his desperate apologies, his yelling at Laura was surprising. Looking at me with pleading eyes, Michael asked,
If you knew this much earlier, why didn't you tell me?
I needed time to prepare. It took longer than I thought. Laura interrupted with a sneer.
Emotional preparation, right? Going from a CEO's wife to a single mom is a big leap. It's no wonder you needed time.
Yes, sorry for the delay. You can have him. I smiled, and Laura smugly responded.
Be sure to come to the wedding in Spain.
We'll see about that. Overseas weddings can be expensive, you know.
That's not a problem. He's a CEO making $500,000 a year.
As Laura laughed it off, I immediately responded. True, but he's a figurehead CEO. The $500,000 a year is actually mine.
What? Is this some kind of joke?
Michael is just a placeholder CEO. I'm the owner CEO who hired him. As the majority shareholder, I hold all the decision-making power. The company was founded by my father, and after his passing, my mother took over and steadily grew it. 6 years ago, when she retired, I inherited everything from her. Since childhood, I had been groomed to take over the company one day, but I appointed Michael as a figurehead CEO. He held no stock or management rights. He was merely a symbolic leader, a role he agreed to. We even had a contract to that effect. Calmly, I informed Michael, I am removing you from your position as CEO. Michael was utterly distraught. He collapsed on the spot and begged me.
Please, forgive me.
His family was one of high achievers, and losing the CEO title would brand him as a failure in his parents' eyes. That was something he was desperate to avoid at all costs.
If you do this, the CEO position will be vacant, and the company will suffer.
It's already been unanimously decided that I will assume the role. That emergency board meeting you mentioned, it was for this. I should have done this from the start.
No way.
Even so, Michael couldn't give up and protested loudly.
You can't remove me from my position over personal grievances.
You've had inappropriate relationships with multiple female employees, haven't you? Laura told me earlier. Not that I didn't already have proof from my investigation.
That's because I was under immense pressure as CEO and needed an escape.
What pressure? You were nothing but a figurehead CEO. My mother, myself, and our capable executives had been running everything behind the scenes. You simply carried out the tasks assigned to you. I will never forgive you for trying to damage the company my mother worked so hard to protect. Michael couldn't respond and sank to the floor in defeat. Laura, who had been listening to the conversation, also lost her composure.
Michael's not going to be CEO anymore? You've got to be kidding me. What about the wedding in Spain? What about my dream of becoming a CEO's wife?
She stormed toward Michael, her frustration boiling over.
Then I'll sue you for fraud. You promised to take responsibility.
Are you sure about that, Laura? You're still married, aren't you?
How do you know that?
I already knew from the investigation. In truth, Laura's husband had already informed her of his intention to divorce. It was likely due to her reckless spending habits. To secure her future, Laura had been stalling the divorce while searching for a better financial prospect. That prospect turned out to be Michael.
You're married? So all that talk about being a struggling single mom was a lie.
Michael accused Laura, but his words didn't seem to register with her anymore.
Jessica, please. Give me back the $30,000. That was compensation money I got from my husband.
You have an obligation to pay me compensation. Still, you really made a reckless gamble. Desperate to become a CEO's wife, Laura had handed over all the compensation money she had received from her husband. I turned to Michael and said, Michael, I'll be filing a claim against you as well. Your share of the property division will go toward a lump sum payment for alimony and child support.
If you do that, I'll be left with nothing.
Not only that, but you'll also be unemployed. Best of luck to you both starting over from scratch. Both Michael and Laura desperately pleaded for my forgiveness. Their reasons were different, but they shared the same goal. They didn't want to pay.
Jessica, you make $500,000 a year, right? So $30,000 is nothing to you.
Exactly. You're loaded. So why are you squeezing money out of me? That's just cruel.
Accusing me of being some kind of money-hungry miser? That's just the height of misplaced anger. You too hurt my precious Ashley. No amount of money could ever make up for that.
Ashley?
Ashley?
The two of them tilted their heads in confusion at my words. Meeting in secret would have been one thing, but riding together in the car in front of Ashley? What were you thinking? Laura letting Sophie call him Dad, and Michael telling Ashley to keep it a secret. How could you, as parents, not understand how that would affect a child? That day, after hearing from Ashley, I checked the footage from the dash cam. The two of them ignored the fact that a child was present and carried on with their conversation. It was far from anything appropriate for parents to discuss.
Ashley, don't tell Mom. She'll leave if you do.
That's right. Just keep quiet for now. You want to stay with your mom, don't you?
They laughed together. It was absolutely unforgivable. Did you underestimate her just because she's a child? At that moment, I swore I would never forgive either of you. Unlike you, I value Ashley more than my own life. Both Michael and Laura lowered their heads, unable to say a word. I called Rachel, who was waiting in the guest room. When Rachel entered, both Michael and Laura looked puzzled.
I'm a justice-seeking attorney who can't forgive the likes of you, so be prepared.
With that, she handed them her business card. At the preschool, strict rules about handling personal information were in place, so Rachel had kept her profession a secret to avoid being relied upon unnecessarily. Michael only knew that she was my best friend and nothing more.
Laura, I reached out to your husband as well, and he happily retained my services. Shall we proceed with both cases together?
What?
First, Laura. The $30,000 in alimony you already received. Due to your infidelity, your husband is demanding its return. Additionally, he's filing a new claim for compensation.
Hearing this, Laura panicked. Not only could she not recover the $30,000 she had given me, but now she was facing an additional $60,000 demand.
Wait a minute.
No, we won't wait. Thanks to your husband's efforts, your family has agreed to cover the full amount. However, they mentioned cutting ties with you completely. You'll need to confirm that with them yourself.
Wait, please.
No, your husband is also seeking custody of Sophie. From what I've heard, Sophie wants this too. He plans to request monthly child support from you.
Based on what I had seen of Sophie's eating habits before, it was clear that Laura hadn't been providing her with proper meals. It was only natural for her husband to demand custody.
And finally, Laura, you're not pregnant with Michael's child, are you?
Of course not. Thank goodness I'm not carrying this man's baby.
Michael sighed in relief, but the person most reassured was me. The thought of Ashley having a sibling she didn't know about was horrifying. Since Laura was always wearing high heels, I had suspected it was a lie, but hearing it confirmed still brought a sense of relief.
As Jessica mentioned, the house and car are in her mother's name, so there's nothing for you to claim.
Please, Jessica, at least let me see Ashley. She'll be sad if I suddenly disappear from her life.
When I asked Ashley if she'd be okay not seeing you anymore, she said, "Dad's never around anyway. I have no intention of ever letting you see her again." Michael turned to Rachel and pleaded,
Can't you help me?
Yeah, we're all mom friends, right?
Even Laura started begging Rachel for assistance.
It seems you're asking the wrong person for help. As an acquaintance, my advice to you is simple. You have no chance. Accept reality and move on.
With slumped shoulders, the two looked defeated as Rachel presented them with the divorce papers to sign. But Laura suddenly shouted,
That's not true. I wasn't dating Michael. My husband asked for a divorce, and I was just seeking advice from him. The private investigator's photos don't prove anything.
That's right. I was just listening to her problems.
The photos did show the two walking arm in arm outside and Michael visiting Laura's house, which had been a meeting spot during the day. I held up a voice recorder and said, Laura, I also have recordings. You can't talk your way out of this. Rachel, isn't this what we call irrefutable evidence?
Yes, it's more than enough as proof.
Additionally, I had all the female employees involved with Michael provide their testimonies. I ensured they could resign amicably under the condition that it wouldn't harm their future job prospects.
For anything regarding the company, you'll need to speak with the corporate counsel.
Finally, the two admitted defeat and signed the divorce papers. I had demanded a lump sum payment of child support to completely sever Michael's ties with Ashley. To me, Ashley wasn't just my precious daughter, but also my future successor. Eliminating Michael's influence, which could jeopardize her well-being, was my top priority. Additionally, I ensured the divorce agreement included a restraining order. Both Michael and Laura would regret being blinded by the allure of a CEO title for the rest of their lives. I watched as the two left the living room, their misery evident in their expressions. Afterward, Michael accepted his termination from the company without protest. Abandoned by his elite family and siblings, he had no one left to rely on. Despite his strong academic background, his obsession with titles made finding a new job nearly impossible. In desperation, he accumulated debt and attempted to start his own company, only to be scammed by clients, leaving him with nothing but liabilities. He was always known for his diligence, but he lacked any sense of business acumen. Now he spends his days and nights working multiple part-time jobs to pay off his debts. Meanwhile, Laura was disowned by her family and had nowhere to go. When Michael started his business, she took a gamble and reconciled with him, only to end up as a co-signer on his debts. She now works night shifts to pay off the debt while scheming to find a wealthy client. But reality hasn't been kind to her. Currently, the two of them live together as housemates solely to repay their debts. This information came from Laura's ex-husband, as Rachel told me. Apparently, her ex-husband inherited a massive fortune from his late father and hired Rachel to handle the inheritance procedures. Laura doesn't know about this, but it makes me think she should have stayed a loyal wife. Ashley and I have moved out of our former home and now live at my parents' house. We can't live with Dad anymore, and we won't be going back to our old house. When I told Ashley, she responded with a beaming smile.
I love this house the most.
And of course she does. My parents' house is home to 2 dogs and 5 cats, making it a paradise for animal-loving Ashley. She had always wanted to have a pet, but with Michael's animal allergies, it was impossible.
If Dad were here, we couldn't have these pets. That would be a problem.
Seeing her laugh so innocently gave me mixed feelings. But as long as she's happy and cheerful, that's all that matters. Although my life has become incredibly busy, I truly enjoy working. Rachel is also thriving in her career, and we often talk about how we're determined to raise our children well, even without husbands,